Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar presented by Rich Nemec and co-hosted by Viscosity and the New York Oracle Users Group. My name is Katie Barnes, Account Manager at Viscosity. During today's presentation, feel free to submit any questions to our presenter in the questions and chat prompt seen on the lower right side of the GoToWebinar panel. Today's presenter will address what he can during the webinar and after if time allows. I will be sending out slides and also a recording of today's presentation later this afternoon to everyone. Representing the New York Oracle's user group is NYOUG President Coleman Leviter. Coleman will now introduce you to the New York Oracle Users Group, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the Viscosity before we get started.
Thank you, Katie, for the kind introduction. Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar at the top of the hour. A little bit about the New York Oracle Users Group. We were formed in 1984 for the exchange of ideas, assistance, and support among users of Oracle software products. We have an open call for abstracts at nyoug.org, NYOUG call abstracts. Go on to the website and click on submit an abstract. And if Oracle is mentioned in it and it's interest to the community, of course, we'll have a webinar with your topic on there. Let me get to the other page. You can connect with us on Twitter, Meetup, LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course the website is nyoug.org. And we want to thank Viscosity New York for co-hosting North America, for co-hosting these series of webinars with us. I'd like to introduce Rich Nemec. He's going to talk about 21C. Rich has an extensive background in both in the Oracle product line, and he was there right from the beginning. So I can say he really needs no introduction, and I just want to thank Viscosity North America for co-hosting the series of webinars, and also want to really thank Rich Nemec. He's always there, ready to give a presentation to webinars to any group whenever a group needs to have his knowledge base. Thank you again, and enjoy the webinar.
Thanks so much, Coleman. Before I hand it over to Rich, I'm just going to briefly introduce you guys to Viscosity and go through some of our services and other helpful resources. Viscosity is an Oracle partner. We work very closely with Oracle Product Management, and we have 4 Oracle ACEs among our leadership. At our core, we help businesses adapt and thrive with the changing needs, demands, and technologies that businesses face. Many Oracle customers are increasingly relying on professional service partners like ourselves to serve as trusted advisors and help make better purchasing decisions in an area that is constantly evolving. Our business model at Viscosity is designed to implement technologies and solutions that will ensure your challenges and goals are met with, and we do this by building close relationships with individuals like yourself, being an open and honest resource, and showcasing our areas of expertise through our weekly webinars and workshops like the one you're about to watch today. So our areas of expertise really fall under 3 pillars: data, apps, and infrastructure. A large bulk of our business is on the database side, including data integration, data warehousing, zero downtime migration to latest versions, including 19C. And overall, we help improve performance at the database level. In our applications practice, we do a lot of Apex development, EPM, ERP, we develop custom apps. And lastly, on our infrastructure and hardware practice side, we include Oracle's public cloud offering, bare metal, engineered systems. We were actually named Oracle's ODA Partner of the Year back in 2019. So as you can see here, we're very active and recognized within the Oracle community. We do pretty much everything when it comes to Oracle, but these are some of our more broadened areas of expertise. So as I mentioned, we do have a very close relationship with Oracle. The people that you see here on this slide represent some of Viscosity's leaders and our Oracle ACEs. These guys present at Open World and Oracle User Group conferences all over the world every year, and we're eager to meet with individuals like you and help uncover how we can best support you and your team. This slide showcases some of our other services, and I'll just briefly go over a few of them. In our team at Viscosity, we have experts on Oracle license management that have actually come from Oracle and worked in that space for several years, my director, Jason Mopaki, being one of them. We provide all of our customers with the best knowledge and best practices on how to manage and maximize your Oracle investment, which is obviously extremely important for businesses. I mentioned this earlier, we do zero downtime migrations and upgrades. We are most known for this service. We've helped customers migrate from AIX to Linux with zero downtime, and more recently have been helping our customers with upgrading to Oracle 19c. We fix pain points before they become real problems for our customers with our performance health checks, another very popular service that we offer. And we also offer a full stack of DBA services. So I wanted to showcase the work that Viscosity has put into becoming trusted advisors who have written the books on Oracle's latest technologies and versions, anything from virtualization, pluggable databases to Oracle Exadata. If any of the books that you see on this slide interest you, or if you're even interested in connecting one-on-one with us, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to share our resources with you and your team. Alrighty, last slide before I introduce today's speaker. If you haven't already checked out our events page, please do so using the link that you see here, viscosityna.com/event. We update this page on a monthly basis with our webinars, workshops, and other events that we have going on, and it's a really great resource. I will be sending out the slides and a recording of today's presentation to everyone later this afternoon, so be on the lookout for an email from me. Sometimes they can go into your junk or spam folder, so just be aware of that. If you have any questions in the meantime, please email me directly. My email address is here at the bottom of this slide. I also wanted to mention that we have a lot of upcoming webinars in August, so be on the lookout for that on our events page. So now let's go ahead and introduce today's speaker. Today we have the amazing and wonderful Rich Nemec, Chief Innovation Officer of Viscosity, Oracle ACE, co-founder and CEO of Tusk, and world-renowned IT expert with over 30 years of industry experience. His experience in data processing ranges from teaching to consulting, with emphasis in data administration, performance tuning, project management, and technical education. You guys are definitely in great hands for today's presentation. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and hand it over to him.
Okay, so can you hear me all right? And do you see that screen yet?
Yep, we're good to go.
All right. Well, great to have everyone here. I want to thank the NYOUG. I know they do a lot of work, and Coleman and others have been doing this for many years. So thank you, first of all. I also wanted to say, maybe next time I'll be there in person. It's a virtual this time. So I know Monica's going to New York. So here's my favorite place to go to in New York. Most people have Times Square or something they always wanted to go to in New York. But for me, this is the spot that I always wanted to go. And the reason why, you can look at it and say, what is this spot maybe? But this is something that reminds me, you don't know how things are going to play out. They don't start good. Sometimes there's a lot of disruption, but things are going to be fine. I think we live in a disruptive time with technology. I'll just put it that way. But my kids all know what August 29th is, and it happened right here. And they just have a little plaque. I was very surprised. I thought this is where the American Revolution was won. A comedian once said, the US needs to win this, so we're going to dress the English, who is the greatest army in the history of the world, in bright red, and you're going to march in straight lines, and the Americans will have you hide behind trees. And just to let you know, American was an epithet or a put down that the British used to use for us. And so what happened? They arrived, the British, on Long Island. The General Howe, was on Staten Island, literally the very day he landed there. Congress declared independence. And then he moved his troops to Long Island on the 27th of July, 1776. And meanwhile, Washington, who had a lot of the army there, moved more of his army there, more than half of his army, to Long Island. Now, keep in mind, it's an island. Maybe is he the best general moving us to an island? And then he got chased back. Everybody ran away because they had 30,000 troops. We had, I don't know, 10 or 11. And they ran all the way back and tried to retreat. And they decided to go across the river, the East River, at night. We're going to get away. We'll leave at night. And Washington said, we'll act like we're fighting, and you guys, meanwhile, cross the island, cross the river. And then he got there at 4 a.m. He thought everybody would be gone, and everybody was still there. And he's like, what happened? And very disruptive, but about half of them made it across, and then day started to break. But luckily, some divine intervention, a fog rolled in, and they were able to cross the rest of the people, with Washington being the last. And keep in mind, they had 400 ships there at that time as well. So this is the spot where they crossed, and that's why I wanted to go there. This little buzz bar is right here in the picture. Anyway, so with that, that's my virtual experience for where you should visit if you ever go to New York. If you want a copy of the notes, you could just send us an email. If you're a beginner, don't worry. Doing Oracle is easy. It's like riding a bike. Except the bike is on fire and you're on fire. Okay, no, it's not that bad. So why upgrade to 19C? Because it is the long-term stable release. You should be on 19C. 5 years of premier support, 3 years of extended support. It'll take you to 2027. Whereas 21C is just an innovation release, and we'll talk about it more, with only 2 years of support. A little bit about me. I'm not going to bore you with that because I've spoken here before. Katie covered this. I did want to say, when you upgrade to 19C, it's good to have 4 aces in your pocket. So give us a call. I'm going to cover, though, the 21C new features. But there are features in 12 you better have. There are features in 18C you better know about. There are features in 19C you better know about if you do go to 21C. But you should land with your main system on 19C. You should be on it now. And you should be looking at 21C because it is the disruption that's coming in the tech world. It has to do with machine learning, and Oracle has built things in the last few decades that makes them the premier place to do your machine learning. And I'll use the various logos. This is 12.1, 12.2, 18C, 19C, 21C to tell you which version I'm talking about. And it'll be in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. All right. So know the Oracle, I think, is the most important thing. Larry had in 1995, Larry had a 64-bit database. That means you could have exabytes of data in your database, but there was no hardware that had exabytes or millions of terabytes in the database. We barely got to 32-bit when Windows came out. Oracle had it back in '83. So what did Oracle do? They bought a hardware company, started accelerating the hardware world. Then they bought all kinds of apps company to integrate that side. Now they're starting to buy machine learning companies. How big are they when we meet in person? They block off the busiest street in all of San Francisco, and their appreciation event is at AT&T Park. Oh, now it's called Oracle Park. I used to look at Oracle all the time and see who's the #1 database, and I'd have it in my talks, and they were #1 all the way back to 1977, and it still has not changed. Some people go up and down. I mean, Teradata was up for a while, they're back down. AWS, a very strong challenger in a short period of time, but there are others as well, and some newer challengers. But this is kind of a take a step back and take a look at what it is. But the real elephant in the room, I'm sure there's a lot of DBAs here, is about the cloud and the future of the DBA. What about the autonomous database? It's going to leave me unemployed. I don't think so. I think the DBA is going to become the data administrator, but it's going to be the most important job in the world of machine learning. Data is the new oil. Well, Oracle, if you know Oracle in this slide, you know 90% of what's on this slide, technically. you can use Big Data SQL to go to Hadoop. Hadoop is like learning a feature of Oracle, or some of these NoSQL databases are like learning a product within Oracle. So Oracle is going to be the way to go to all these different things. Things like in-memory are what make all these other type of things faster, like documents or like spatial or graphs and things like that. But I like this one. I just tweeted this out a couple of days ago. But the DBA is the most important part of the machine learning process. Let's see what machine learning is. Data identification, data aggregation, data cleansing. Sounds like a DBA. Data labeling, that's like knowing this is customer or city or whatever it is. Well, why is this take so long? Because other databases don't do it too well. Data augmentation, filling in missing data. Oracle has ways to automatically do this. So most of machine learning you can do. And then there's algorithm directed model tuning, operational. With auto ML, it even does some of this. So Oracle has made this very fast, and things like in-memory, things like Exadata, things like partitioning. Some of the things Oracle has built over the years is really going to play out in a very positive way for them. Cloud choices, I think there's less than you think. Oracle a year ago, Q4, up 140% in the cloud. They keep moving up with cloud licensing. If you've never tried it, oracle.com, cloud.oracle.com/try it. Build an autonomous database. It'll take all of 2 or 3 minutes. You could try out Kubernetes, big data, IoT, machine learning. But you get it up and running, life is good. Hey, it started. How about autonomous provisioning? 3 minutes later, well, ATP 2.5 minutes later, it's up and running. Autonomous data warehouse, 3 minutes later, it's up and running. 20C, oh, it's gone now, but it did get to 22 that I saw. And then I can also, through either bare metal, VM, or on the always free autonomous database in certain regions, I can do 21C as well. So I wanted to let you know exactly how to do it. And here's an example of what it looks like. When I look at the new version, the advanced DBA will put some milk in, the intermediate DBA put a few eggs, but the beginner DBA usually puts it on a little bit too early in production, and it's their bacon on the line. So some of the things, and again, I'm just going to do FY and 12C and 18C especially, but things like invisible indexes, why are they important where I could put a multiple indexes on the same column? Because Oracle will use it to do automatic indexing. And I have to know when I do an invisible index, it is still maintaining that index even though it's invisible. Proximate query, counting distincts is going to make machine learning and analytics faster. Pluggable databases is going to make it easy to consolidate databases and separate things. Doing online operations to keep things up and running 24/7. And then some tuning options. Also, masking data redaction. These are just things Oracle just keeps adding more and more security. Truncate table cascade. If you're a beginner, just forget that part of the slide. I want to do that. So multiple types of indexes on the same column. So here's a unique reverse key normal bitmap, so I can use them at different times is what that was for, but now they use it for automatic indexing. We'll see. So understanding what's happening behind the scenes, very important to that feature which comes out in 19C. Proximate query processing, I could do this with distinct values, and I can also do it where I approximate, let's say $1 million in sales. What does it do? Gives me within 97% with 95% accuracy. You're going to see a little bit later, the biggest benefit is the savings in resources. And here's just a couple of examples to do an approximate distinct instead, and I could turn it on for all distincts if I want as of 12.2. And some other things we'll look at when we get to 18C as this is expanded even more for analytics. I like offset 8. X rows and fetch first X rows only. And the reason why is you used to run a query to kind of tune it and say where row num is less than 5 just to see how fast it would go. But now with bigger and bigger data sets, You need to look in the middle of the table. You need to look at different parts of the table where you can offset it to see if it's still running well. That's a great query. That's a great command. Adaptive query optimization, again, we're now in release 2 of 12. Does adaptive plans. It's using a machine learning type thing to automatically fix your joins, and it has some other things here as well. But it's doing a nested loops, and it says, hey, I've looped through this 5, 10, 50, 100 times. Wow, you told me it was only going to be 5 based on your statistics. Boom, change it to a hash join. Automatically changes your join to make it more efficient. Also in 12.2, pluggable databases came out. So I can separate these into, ERP from CRM, from data warehousing, from whatever other data source you have. And now I can back it up, or I can use it as a data warehouse. I could send it to partners. You're going to see this a lot. You got to be very careful and ensure you keep the security. But most of all, in 21C, D support of non-CDB architecture. So you must go here. And you're going to find they give you 3 PDBs without buying the multi-tenant option as of 19C. We'll see that a little bit later. And this just talks more about the containers, just like when you install Oracle, the main things behind the scenes, and then the pluggable database, and then how you can patch, upgrade different things. But when you consolidate onto one system, you could see the aggregate throughput grows tremendously. So I'm using all the resources here. A little bit slower, but that's because, wow, look how much I reduced the memory footprint by. Oh, and I'm not using as many storage IOPs because I now am reusing stuff out there. Query PDB is exactly what you would guess, which would be $PDBs I have. And of those 3 user-created PDBs you get for free, PDBC does not count. It's just like an unmodifiable PDB that you have. You could also do a create pluggable database from some link and refresh. So here I have a copy of that. The original one changes. Now I move that, let's say, to the cloud, so those changes make their way to the cloud with a pluggable database clone. I can also do a snap clone, which is based on hardware as well, which is a smaller footprint. I can also do a PWB relocate, where I'm moving the CRM to here. And I can do a flashback PDB. So you can see Oracle way back in 12.2 building all kinds of flexibilities with pluggable databases, but also kind of based on things you already know. The next thing they put in 12.102, enhanced more in 12.2, was in memory. And this line right here, in memory area. So it's set to 0 by default. Once you set it, you may have bought something. Oh, but you know what? They're going to let you have up to 16 gig for no charge. That's how good they think it is. They want to make sure that you give it a try. So how do you compete with, let's say you're a marketer and you're competing with Google, or you're a retailer, you're competing with Amazon, how do you beat them when they have such a big cloud? And the answer is, I can go on the Oracle Cloud, but I could do things in memory. So what does in memory do for me? Well, the buffer cache was very good for transactions because it would put everything in memory. But now analytics, especially when I get to machine learning where I'm going through billions of rows, maybe 10,000 times, becomes very important to be in memory. And so it puts that entire column in memory, so I don't have all those other fields there, and I compress it on top of that. So transactions, buffer cache, analytics, and memory column store. All the different places I could put it on. Again, these are just FYI, 12, but you're going to see that this becomes very important in 21C. All I have to do is add the word in memory or alter it. I do have to either have a full table scan or populate it to get it in there the first time. You'll see that's going to change in 21C. Also want to do an execution plan to see, is it actually working? Another thing that came out in 12.2, all these online alter tables. Got this slide from Charles Kim. But I could also do online with update indexes where even the indexes are usable during the move. So is your system up 24/7? Oracle's making it easy for you to do that. But one of the best features, I think, at this disruptive time is going through Oracle as a secure portal, to me, maybe the only secure database if you do it right, and go into Hadoop or go into a NoSQL database. Maybe even doing joins between those, which is possible. But also, I'll partition those tables because it uses external tables, and I can now put it in memory as well, and all kinds of integration points as well. The biggest reason you want to do this is for security. The second biggest reason is for speed. They also gave you long names to consolidate other databases, so you can do consolidation. There's some partitioning improvements, Big Data SQL we just saw, but also all the things they've done with pluggable databases now become very important as I get to 19 and 20. How about on 18C? Well, they changed how they named it. The release update revision. I always like the snapshot carousel where it does a clone of my main production PDB, and then it creates Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 8 days. So if I ever need a day, get back to something, I have a way to flash back to that. Also, I could just take a certain day and say, oh, you want Thursdays? Let me make a copy of that for you to do data warehousing or do machine learning. And I could also do this snapshot copy I mentioned earlier, where this is a smaller version, but it does have to be materialized. This does, a snapshot copy. I also always wanted to know where this is actually taking space. Who's using up all my space? How much are you using? And so I put this query here, just so you know. But notice the snapshot carousel on Exadata or on the cloud enterprise, but not on site enterprise. There's also a PDB switchover cloud where you saw where I refresh the other pluggable database, but now I can say switch it over. So the red's going down, the gray's going up, and they're refreshing them every 2 minutes, which is pretty fast. Now I could say, hey, switch the gray over, go the same direction. Very, very nice command. You can see Oracle giving you all kinds of commands to give you this detail. And again, that's on Exadata or Cloud Services Enterprise Edition. Keep in mind that every Autonomous database is on Exadata. So you get that with Autonomous database. How do I do an in-memory external table? I talked about this a little earlier. Just add the word in memory to your external table. Never did an external table. You can learn it in about a half an hour. You'll be writing them, going to your alert file. Proximate queries expanded in 18C. They also add a top end to find the top certain amount of rows. You can see some of the features here. I'll show you how to get to this in a minute. But the big thing with Approximate, as I was saying earlier, is how much resources it doesn't use. Instead of 1 gig a temp with the exact query, 1.1, temp over here, 1 gig of temp below, no temp. 1.1 gig of sort down to only about 50 meg, well, exactly 50 meg of sort. So the big advantage to Approximate is not just that it's amazingly fast, not just that it's in memory, but also is using less resources, which means you're paying less for the product. You need less cloud, you need less CPUs, you need less of everything. And you could try different things out in the XE version, came out in 2018, advanced analytics, partitioning, multi-tenant. It's a good place to try things out on your laptop. So are you using those 18C features that are important? An Autonomous database came out with 18C, and I'll talk more about that in a little while. Snapshot carousel switchover. I like Docker support, was nice, and also Active Directory. Never used 19C? Now I'm going to go to 19C. Well, go to livesql.oracle.com. You say, I can't get this job because I've never used 19C. You go here, you're up, and you go 19C. Oh yeah, I use 19.8. Put that on your resume. Hey, best feature of 19C though is I get to have 3 user-created pluggable databases of any kind. Isn't that great? And I should do it in 19C so that when I go to 21C, I don't have to worry about this because it's desupported. Larry talked about autonomous database, he said, and one of the big features is automatic indexing, where we're going to autonomously optimize your system by looking at what you had in 18C on your 18C autonomous database. Look at the SQL plans, indexes, see if it's going to be fast enough when we move to 19C. So not only will it tune things while you're on 18, before it goes to 19, it's going to check everything as well. This was in Larry's talk a while ago. And this just talks about how you would do that. And what is this process? It's basically what somebody would do to do performance tuning on your system. Now, what I like about it is they give you different settings where I could say, well, the default, first of all, is off, but I could do report only and it'll create invisible indexes to try things out and kind of look at them. If I want to implement it, I say implement it, will create visible indexes, or I could just turn it back off. Now, if I do report only, and I get this either with implement or report only, I get a report, it'll look at, well, we looked at 53 and we created 12 indexes. And it even tells you how much space it used. And it tells you how much faster it was, 3 times faster. Also in 19, and one thing I should mention here, I put it on the first slide, only on Exadata, keep that in mind. Also only on Exadata is SQL Quarantine, where it automatically, you can quarantine not the SQL statement itself, but the certain execution plans for a given SQL statements. And you could look at how often people try them, how often they use them, and that's what the SQL Quarantine, a great feature. The last one in 19C I wanted to show is where I can use my active standby that maybe I use for analytics now and things like that. But now I can actually do a DML command. I do an update, what happens? Well, redirects it to the primary, it applies it, and then it's changed on the standby. And then I can see it. So it's not really happening here first. It's just following the same path as a regular transaction would go to make sure the active standby is up to date. But hey, you don't have to do it. I can also go to other things. I have Oracle's object store, but I could go to Azure or Amazon as well. I can do scalable joins that span these different data lakes if I want. This is something that you might be doing now or in the future. If you want to see more on 19C, and this is how the 19C docs looked, get started, go to the Database Features app, and these are how I show you which version certain things are on. Very helpful if you do presentations and you want to try to remember what they were. If you want to look at big data performance enhancement, I'll give you the detail behind it as well. And here's the link for that. I can also go into Get Started and go to Interactive Architecture Diagram to get better at Oracle, understand it better. And this shows the SGA. And I can click on something like the shared pool and it will describe to me what the pieces of the shared pool as well. So you want to get better at Oracle, this is how you can do it. And then this is just FYI, Oracle had this in a talk. I said, hey, can I give that slide out? And it just showed how somebody moved from 18 to 19C, leveraging all these different clones that they had over time. And you can see, and it wasn't a small database. It was a 5 terabyte database. So make sure you're using these 19C features too. 3 user created pluggable databases, automatic indexing, JSON object mapping. Schemas have password remove, Oracle database schemas, rather. SQL quarantine in memory, some additions, you're going to see a lot more in 21C. And wait on populate. And I like, maybe the best feature on this whole list is Apex REST data service. This is really quite amazing. If you're an Apex person, you know that. And then sharded rack if you have maybe geographically dispersed things in very, very large databases. Best feature in 19C, as I said, as I went to 21C, was 3 pluggable databases. And that's as I go here now into 21C, is I want to make sure that I'm at pluggable databases because I can no longer use non-CDB architecture. But I like, you know, everybody asks, should I go to 19C or 21C? Well, first of all, 19C should be where you land for the reasons I said earlier rather. But if later you want to go to 21C, it's okay as long as maybe there's a big corporate direction for machine learning and you need to get certain features of that, or you want something like data safe for security. But Oracle does start to backport things into 19C, so keep that in mind. If it's good enough, it might make its way back into that long-term support release. Oracle had this a while back where 20C was the interim, and then 20 or innovation release they call it. 21C was innovation, and 22 was going to be the long-term release, but then with COVID they said, you know, 20 came out in 2020 and we're just going to wipe that from existence. And then 22C was the long-term revision, and then they thought, you need 2 more innovation releases, and you're going to see it's going to be 23 in a second. It's going to be the long-term. But 20C, let's stop and give 20C its moment. You bring it up, there was a 20C only preview edition that you could try, and it was 20.2 is as high as I got to. Okay, that went away. The good news, all those features are in 21C. So they updated this document. 19C goes all the way out to 30 April 2027. And now 21 is the innovation release. We've just erased 2020, I guess, from existence. 22 is innovation, and 23 is the long-term vision. So you get to 19, that'll take you into 2027. You get to 23, that'll take you into 2031. That's a long-term time up. Remember, the innovation release, only 2 years of premier support, no extended support. Long-term release, that's where you get the long support, great for production. All those 20C features that are now gone are in 21C. My favorite features, and I'll go through some of them. My number one is probably auto machine learning, and you'll see why a little bit later. I like multi-tenant data guard, so I can control data guard at a more granular level. I like persistent memory because more people are going to put their databases in memory. And I like things like, I like in database JavaScript for people that have that, and some of the JSON advantages as well. But number one, by far, to me, you're at the most disruptive time because of machine learning and how fast it's going and how disruptive it can be. But Oracle came out with something called auto machine learning. And I'm going to try to help you to 100% appreciate it. But Oracle is automatically selecting the algorithm. So this is some math that people built 40, 50 years ago that's going to figure out something in my data. So I want to categorize customers that I have into good and bad customers. It'll look through 7 different algorithms if I want and find the best algorithm for doing that classification. It'll identify the right sample size to train it and then test it. It will denoise data, so I have exceptions in there, or it will fill in data. It doesn't say it here, but it also will fill in missing data. It'll auto-tune the model so that that model is very fast. And don't forget, you can partition things. You can use in memory. You can use Exadata to make things faster. And then you have that model built that I now can use for machine learning. And I'm going to show you an example of it working in a little bit. The next feature, I think, equally very, very important at this point in time in history is security. And Oracle has made it easier to do a security assessment on your whole system. How about on users specifically? How about on data specifically to see if you're using all those things like data masking or user auditing and so on. It does a security audit, and it does it through something called Oracle Data Safe, and I'm just using autonomous data warehouse to show you. I click on Data Safe. I could also do it here with this hamburger icon, you know, because it looks like a hamburger. Let's go there. Then it tells me how safe my system is from a system standpoint, from a user or data standpoint. I'll just zoom in a little closer. And it shows me just different trends that are happening and things I need to know. But look up a talk by Russ Lowenthal if you're interested in this. This is a very, very good presentation that he has out there that's very complete on Data Safe. The next thing I think is just unbelievable in 21C is database in-memory new enhancements that they've done. In-memory, spatial, and text. You know, why is that important? Well, because maybe I want something to read through my reviews or documents that people are writing on me. I want to use one of Oracle's algorithms to read all that text and find certain things. Well, I can do it faster because it's in memory. Or I want to do spatial. I want to do graphical things. I don't want that to be fast. So much faster by putting that in memory. Also have in-memory vector joins, and this is something that makes gaming fast. You know, when you have millions of different users on there, but it does in-memory joins using SIMD vector instructions. That's single instruction, multiple data sets with the same CPU cycle. Also have in-memory hybrid scans where I can use the buffer cache or I can use the in-memory column store, but I could also do them together. Could be 10 times faster. Depending on the data, you know, some of these say 5 or 10 times faster. They could be 1,000, 10,000 times faster in memory. And then there's also self-managing memory. We talked about how you had to say in memory to put something in. Well, now Oracle will put it in for you. It'll compress it at different ways. It'll populate, evict it, kind of like the buffer cache, which is probably where they learned that from. Oracle's, you know, leveraging the things they've done in the past. Also in 21C, we've had result cache. Now we have a standby result cache, making the standby even faster. Starting in 21C, the parameter to enable or disable password file case sensitivity is removed. Keep that in mind. However, from earlier databases releases will default to have their original case insensitivity verifiers. But the nicest part I like about the docs I saw in 21C is I have this copy command. Remember I do create database and it's like forever long? Wouldn't it have been nice if I could go to the docs and just click copy? Now you can. Also in 21C, blockchain table. I need a trusted third party that's going to run some tamper resistant ledger. Now there's only inserts and append only and queries in that. Hey, if you happen to build, you know, the Oracle coin or the next coin, throw me a few coins. If this gave you a good idea to maybe I'm going to do Oracle coin. Okay. Persistent memory store. This is something that Oracle came out with in 18C, but the Intel Optane chip that they needed for persistent memory was not done yet. So now it came out in 21C and the Optane chip is out. But what this does is it's something between flash and DRAM. Is PMEM, and Optane is extremely fast PMEM. There are different kinds that are not as fast, but 100 times faster than, you know, what I have going to flash. So a place between flash and DRAM that makes it very fast. So no need for a large buffer cache, just put the whole database in memory, right? They also added a lot of features for Apex and machine learning. Apex dark mode, if you've ever seen that, instead of a white background like I have here, it'd be a black background and white and red. I don't know. I think the younger people like it. They call it Darkula. When I'm using PyCharm PyCharm writing Python. You know, they have Darkula, which I would never use, but everybody else seems to use it. You could see an upload. How do you get data into Oracle? There's a lot of ways to do it, but when I want to get data into Oracle on the cloud, I like to use it using Apex. It's phenomenal. Some chart enhancements, which are quite easy. You could build some very intuitive graphs in such a short amount of time. We can help you with that. We do a lot of that. And then some new algorithms I'm going to talk about in a minute. If you've never gone to the documents, in 21C looks like this. 19C, they actually made it look like this now too. But I get started, what's new. Then I'm going to go into what's new and do the learning database features. And I could learn more hybrid in-memory scans. And I talked about this where I could do these at the same time. It gives me more detail about that. Where I can do the query that uses both of those caches at the same time. Automatic in-memory enhancements. Notice, take the table in the hot region, the medium, and the cool region. And this image on the right is from Turthankar, if you know him, the guy that runs that in-memory group. When I set it to high, it automatically does this for me. Kind of like the buffer cache plus in-memory plus compression. But the big one, as I said, 21C backported to 19.8 is database in memory up to 16 gig at no cost. Don't have to buy in memory for it. Now it doesn't have all features, doesn't have that automatic in memory one that I kind of like. Doesn't have the same all the compression, but they did just backport it to 19.8. Isn't that nice? Table space encryption algorithm. Can now set the encryption algorithm, dynamic parameter, to set different encryptions that we've had in the past. I think this is something you have to watch carefully. First of all, you have to make sure you do this, but in addition to that, be careful. As quantum computers come, it may be able to break these algorithms. Ensure you use key management features like data pump, exports from autonomous database or imports, exclude objects. I take it back, exports from that. Exclude objects for import export. Resume transportable table space. That's very nice. Parallelize it. My favorite though, one or more databases, upgrade it with one command. Does all the pre-upgrade tasks. Does retry and a fallback. They could have used that a few versions ago. And then the best slide, I thought Bijou put out once. You say 19C, 20C, I upgraded to 21C because now there's no 21C. 20C does not exist. And you can see all the things that are on Exadata, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So Oracle's definitely moving that direction, but some of those features end up on Enterprise Edition on-premise eventually also. What's new? Database features and licensing, I might add. I'll show it in a minute. Database in memory base level. I want to know more about how this works. It tells you, you won't be charged, but it's 16 gig, but it does say in a rack environment, the size is 16 gig per instance. So that's nice. Then if I click on the licensing instead of features, now it gives me the database in memory and I can look, and I can look at, database in memory base level. It's on Enterprise Edition, on-premise, Exadata, or Exadata on the cloud. Now I can look at automatic indexing, and they also have increased synchronization for automatic indexing with when I have a lot of DML operations simultaneously. That's on 21C. And I can go in there and see more about automatic indexing and where it is. I can also click on licensing, and I'll see, what is the licensing for the automatic indexing thing? You can see automatic index optimization is on most everything, whereas automatic indexing, as I said earlier, only on Exadata, Exadata Cloud. Machine learning, they've added 2 new algorithms here at the bottom. Other things on machine learning as well. But I can click on this. This is the XGBoost algorithm, which I actually like a lot. Notice machine learning came free. This is just, wow, in the last 9 months or so. It's a big savings. But the XGBoost algorithm, very popular. It's a Kaggle winner. If you do machine learning, you're familiar with Kaggle because Kaggle's a place where you can get a lot of data and they have competitions. But the Kaggle winner has this, using multiple algorithms to build something. Oracle also had the MSET SPRT algorithm, which looks for subtle anomaly detection. And this was built originally in machine learning. Oracle hired that person who built it. New features that are more recent, in database JavaScript. How great is that? Execute the JavaScript inside the database, and it can also, that JavaScript can call PL SQL and SQL as well. If you want a little more security at the process, CPU, memory, network, file access level, you have enhanced security isolation for PDBs on top of that. And this one I really like is DataGuard, where again, I'm moving just the PDB. I talked about a little bit earlier, but more PDB operations, but now at the DataGuard level. All I could say about is DataGuard is if you could afford it, you absolutely should have it, and you definitely want it. Another nice feature, JSON data type, where I can mix JSON and relational data. And oh, by the way, fully ACID transactions, that's atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. Just to let you know, all these databases that pop up, they are not all fully ACID. Oh, it's eventually going to be consistent. You can also do JSON, index any JSON element. You can do a lot of the things you do with, or you put it in memory. But Oracle was looking at this chart and had Mongo and Amazon who were competing, and Amazon made a big deal about, oh, we passed Mongo for how fast we are. And Oracle said, well, let's try out our JSON. Let's try out autonomous JSON. It's half the price of Mongo. Let's see how it does. It was twice as fast. So you need a document database. Think of Oracle's JSON or autonomous JSON. Oracle also, this is more for consolidation. You might have a database where you need SQL macro for scalars and SQL macros for tables that they use. Oracle now in 21C allows that. And a great feature, we've needed this for a while. What are the calls you get? You changed my password. I can't remember the new password. Well, now we have a gradual password rollover. We'll keep that password for 6 months or maybe for 2 weeks, whatever it is, where the old and new both work for a period of time until they learn the new one. Kind of nice. Stop a lot of calls. So how many great new features are in 21C? Some amazing things here. I like auto machine learning, which I'm going to show you a little more on. But the other thing is Oracle has a converged database, whether you're going after document data or JSON data or relational data or spatial data, graphical data. Oracle's given you a way to access them. They also have a lot of things that are built in for free, like machine learning. But you don't have to learn many different databases. You don't have to have, skills in all those different things. And oh, by the way, you have security that's been going on for 40 plus years, and it just keeps getting better. Now, sometimes another database will say, oh, we do that like Oracle. And I go, but do you do these other things? And the answer is always no, we don't. We'll get that. Ensure you use those 21C features, automatic machine learning. There's also Oracle Machine Learning for Pi. There's Oracle Machine Learning for R, if you know those as well. In-memory vector joins we talked about. All the nice advantages within memory. Really quite amazing. But it is time for workers to worry about AI. Larry Ellison on the main reason you need autonomous cloud. I'll say autonomous database. You don't want to, he doesn't want to be sitting in front of Congress. Oh, that's right. He'll put Safra there maybe. No, but the autonomous database, the DBA, who's going to tune it before it goes there? Make sure it's, I don't send too much data there that I don't need. We're charging correctly. Maybe I'm only going to make small database. Maybe I manage too many databases I just want to move a few of them to be autonomous so that I don't have to manage them. They'll be automatically updated. Automatically the patches will be applied. And the answer is the DBA has to do that even to get them there to start with. But some jobs are gone. You don't have time to manage all those databases. You want to be the data administrator. Competition between man's mind and the product of man's mind, which is what? Machine learning, a robot. For this, they're standing room only in the Twilight Zone. You are literally at the time of all those things you've ever seen in the Twilight Zone, if you've watched that. Autonomous data warehouse. How long does it take? 3 minutes. Provision a database, 18. Oh, you need 19C? Boom, 3 minutes. Autonomous JSON. That one takes about 7 minutes. Up and running. Are they going to replace you? I asked Pepper the robot. I said, hey, are you going to replace the DBA? She said, I don't understand the question. I said, good. Keep it that way. And don't read my book, by the way. How about autonomous transaction processing? More for transactions. Provisioning available. 2.5 minutes. Autonomous database, 70% Q4 growth rate a year ago. Scale it up. Oh, more cores, more storage. That'll cost you more cores. How about stop it? Click on stop. Stopping. Stopped. Went from green to yellow to still yellow. Should have went red, huh? How about the Service Console? This is the one I spend a lot of time in. Oracle Apex, SQL Developer, machine learning notebooks. Let's go there. Why do I want everything in memory? To do machine learning. What happens when I do something with machine learning that has a billion rows and it does it 1,000 times? Takes a long time. Sometimes people write machine learning and they go, it's going to take 25 years to get done. I could learn how to do everything. These are not big Oracle documents, they're very small, and one day you could read different ones and use them. Then what can I do in machine learning? Run SQL statements. I could run SQL scripts, or I could do a notebook. And what is a notebook? Just a lot of SQL statements and SQL scripts, although they could be Python, could be R, could be graphs, or I could do a job to do it. And then Oracle gave you some examples if you want to look at it. Anomaly detection. Who are the anomalies? What are people buying together? Association rules, cluster some big data. Tell me which customers might buy my products. So I don't have to look at all of them. But I look at machine learning this way, and this is a picture I found in Oracle Docs probably 2 years after I'd been doing machine learning. Would have been nice to have early, so I put it here. But first, what's the problem to solve? Oh, we need more money. Second, what's the function you need to perform to get more money? Oh, I need to distinguish between good and bad customers so that I can go to big data and find out who the good ones are and use my salespeople to call only the good ones. Third, what's the algorithm I need to use? Oh, I need to classify them into good and bad customers. Oh, there's 7 different algorithms. So I need to build and train that model to do this. And maybe look at 60% of the data. I already know who the good and bad customers are. Find the best algorithm, then score it on the other 40% and see if it's working right. And I'll just add a couple things. I can classify regression, tell me what the numbers will be in the future. What makes them my most important customer attribute importance, or clustering data and things like that. But anomaly detection, it's just math that says do a circle, but make it the tightest possible circle so that anything outside is an anomaly. Show me good and bad customers, not separating by the green or even blue line, but the red line as far as possible so that I'll always know what's coming. There's a few other notes on that if you download these. Let's look at a notebook. Select some data from my customer 360 table. Pretty easy. Then I can say, do a bar chart, do a pie chart, scatter chart, group it by different things, and then break it into the different marital status maybe. But what I want to do here is build an anomaly detection model. What does it do? It's an algorithm. It says use support vector machines. This is a 1 class SVM because I just want to find the anomalies. I could do something where I say, find out if they're going to buy this credit card or not. But this one, I'm just going to say, find the anomalies. Then I create a model, give it a name. I want to classify things on this customer 360 table. Based on each customer ID, find out if they'll buy a credit card. Oh no, just null. That means find an anomaly. I'm not looking for something specific yet. Then I'm going to use a select statement and then do the prediction of that probability that it's an anomaly. And then I'm going to go graph it based on the years of residence in this case. But it would be better if I just say, well, give me the top 15 customers that are anomalous. Let me go one step further, find out why they're anomalous. What are the attributes? Oh, these are the attributes of these customers that are making them anomalous. These are things, send me an email, I can help you do. But they added something. 3/18/21, I tried it, 3/18/21. The day it came out, notice when I created it, the day that they came out with this. Why? Because I had built a model. I had done classification of data. And then I compared 7 different algorithms, and it took me, I don't know, a couple of days to do that to find out what the best one was. Now I can go in here, try AutoML and see how good Oracle is. There's my data source, customer 360 tab. I'm going to do classification, see which customers will buy a credit card with my New York Jets or New York Giants logo, let's say, for example. First of all, it does some things that I didn't do, like find the distinct values, min, max, mean, standard deviation in different columns. I could do it by better accuracy, faster results. Then it starts to compare all my different algorithms. I know it's done. And it's done in 4 minutes. What took me 2 days, 4 minutes, compared them all. Oh, and by the way, you could just say create a notebook. It actually writes the notebook for me. And this particular one is in Python. You can see the syntax for that. 4 minutes, what took me 2 days. That was amazing. So now it's how to leverage the tool more. But what did I write a lot? I can write a lot of Python, or I can write a lot of SQL to do it. But the machine learning capabilities of Oracle are staggering. They are unused. They are the biggest secret you have. And here's classification, good and bad customers, maybe clustering. Oh, go out and find a certain age group because I know in the big data, this age group buys a lot of my product. Find anomalies. Oh, I want to find out when people will come to my hotel, maybe when certain events are happening, time series, or maybe Christmas buying. Regression, show me the numbers, do predictive, prescriptive analytics. Attributes, what makes them my best customer? Association rules, what do they buy together? Oh, he buys the milk and eggs, let's put those together. Oh no, let's put them far apart, so you got to walk across the store and maybe pick up some other things along the way. Predictive queries, Oracle has SQL analytics, and they put this in decades, statistical functions. It's been decades where Oracle has been building this stuff. And then some of the other algorithms here is like text mining support, where you can go to text and find different type of, maybe read through reviews and give you a sentiment analysis, either a happy or sad face, to see how your users like it. And this is just something you can do with GANs, if you've ever heard of this, but it's machine learning. And this, somebody took Marie Antoinette and said, if she was walking down the street today, what should we look like? What would she look like? Oh, what would Henry VIII look like if he was here, or Queen Elizabeth? Oh, and Little Deb's snack cakes. She never existed. The guy just drew it. Oh, what would she look like if she was a person? But machine learning is going to be your entire future. There's so many different algorithms of doing different things. Oh, you want to build an autonomous car? Well, supervised learning. I'll give you 1,000 pictures of cats. You could do Google's TensorFlow, which integrates with Oracle. Classify those so that I now know what a cat is. Oh, and I know what a person and a dog. And oh, when you use your autonomous car, don't hit those things. I want to find fraud. Or I want to know if I'm going to hit my numbers, or if what the weather's going to be. Or unsupervised, I don't have any data, just cluster the data into age groups so I can use them. And if that's not enough, all that machine learning and all those things are going to go inside a robot. And these are going to be AI. That's why you need to be the DA. Handle all the data. How about Exadata? Look at all the things I can do with Exadata as well. You can see, first of all, multi-tenant, so I could share pieces of data with people, but also to back it up, to recover it, all kinds of different things we saw. But in memory, to make it so fast. Machine learning is very complex math sometimes, and using an in-memory database can make it so much faster. Oh, by the way, rack for availability, recoverability, active data guard, partitioning, even more speed, compression, even more speed, spatial and graph, been in there for decades. If I use storage indexes, automatically will create an index for something and do the sorting on the server side, on the disk side rather. And then, oh, by the way, Oracle's cloud infrastructure, they do the most money they've ever spent on anything. They spent on their cloud infrastructure starting this coming year. So it's already gigantic and it's getting even bigger. And I think the best kept secret is people don't know how good it's getting. And that was, they announced it on 20C, but we'll just say 19 and 21. So what's important right now? How do you win? Or what's important now? That's how you win. Remember that algorithm, that acronym, sorry. Remember the algorithms too. Get your autonomous DBA to help you doing some of this administration, applying security patches so you don't have to do it. So you could focus things on chatbots, robotics, machine learning especially. Get them to help you. We're just moving faster and faster because of how much directly addressable memory there is. 32-bit, 2 to the 32, you got 4 gigs of memory. And what did we get? We got the internet. Here it is, the internet. When was that? When did Oracle have the 32-bit database? All the way back in 1993. Oh, and now we're just moving to 64-bit, 18 exabytes, 16 exabytes, 18 with 18 0 bytes. It's like going 300 trillion times faster than Windows was, where the internet was only 65,000 times faster, based on these numbers in miles an hour. But when did Oracle have that 64-bit database? All the way back in 1995. They had to buy a hardware company to start accelerating. 128-bit, it's coming fast. I look at Gartner, they kind of show you what's coming. In 2013, it was all about tech coming. Big data is coming, autonomous vehicles, cloud computing coming. At this point of the graph, it's at 5%. At this far right, it's at 30%. So some things are just coming. Then all of a sudden, 2015, robotic stuff is coming. Connected home, Internet of Things, hybrid cloud computing. 2018, all about robotics coming. Even quantum computing, but it's going to be a little slower. Connected home. 2020, that's the one you want to know, right? What's coming? Augmented intelligence, smart robots. Machine learning is not even at 5% yet. Chatbot's not even at 5%. You've learned stuff here where you're going to create the future if you take advantage. Leveraging the database, GPS robotics, it's here now. You could do it with Oracle. Robotic process automation. Average company, 900 business process, 85% can be automated. This is a company, Alliance uses UiPath to automate these things, read the emails for you, fill in forms for you automatically. Leverage the database, AI, and virtual reality. Virtual reality works with Oracle now. HoloLens, I can integrate with Oracle. Mixed reality, I can do that now. But augmented reality, where the iPod shows me how things look on the shelf. Augmented reality for the road. We're moving from this mainframe world to using, to wearing, to implanting digital, and the internet is just this hive mind that we already have. The world is changing fast. Those who use things of the world should not become too attached because it's passing away. Never before was it passing so fast. And then with quantum computing, you'll hit this age of entanglement. Singularity and transcendent man. Will humans transcend biology? Well, right now they already have things that integrate where this guy can get a drink with a brain implant. This guy's arm is his job. You thought Edward Scissorhands would never happen? It's already here. So we talked about all the different features there, the ones that are important in 12, 18, 19, and then now 21C, which is really going to cause some disruption. Oracle hasn't been caught for how many years? 44 years. I don't think they're going to get caught now. Applications leader, BI leader, the lead in the cloud, but they have all the things to do machine learning better, faster than anyone else. I think they're going to stay number one for quite a while. And a few of the other references there. Then an email. You got a question on machine learning. You want me to help in some way? The email was at the beginning, or just richanemic@gmail.com works always. And I want to thank everybody. I don't know if I have any questions. Let me just take a look here or any chat. Just thank you. If you have a question, you could send it or just send it to me, richanemic@gmail.com. So with that, I'm going to say thanks for coming. I don't know if Katie has any additional things to say. Let me just go up with. All right.
Thanks so much, Rich.
Thanks everyone for coming, and have a great day.
Thanks again. Before we close out, I just want to again thank Coleman and the New York Oracle Users Group for co-hosting this webinar with Viscosity. Again, I will be reaching out to everyone later this afternoon with a copy of Rich's slides and a recording of the webinar. Also seeking any feedback that you guys might have for us. We are planning our webinars and events for the rest of 2021 leading into 2022. We just want to make sure we're catering the content of our webinars to what's relevant to you. So if you guys do have any suggestions or feedback, let's sync up so I can hear your thoughts. Thanks again for joining us today. Sorry, go ahead, Rich.
I have one suggestion, and that is get to 19C. Katie can help. Give her a call.
Yes. Awesome. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.